I was walking a facility earlier last month and saw one of those new model scissor lifts. Anybody seen one of those? Those things look like some very high-tech piece of equipment. The plant manager asked me if I knew anything about one of these, and well, I had to say no. It may have had the most futuristic control console that I've ever seen. I'm Marty with you here today with Warehouse and Operations as a Career. Now, I've operated several different scissor lifts and a couple of different aerial lifts for that matter, but this was one of the first one of this type that I'd seen. Come to find out, his real question was, had I ever been certified to operate it? As we've learned before, in order to be certified, we have to be observed operating it on the dock. And of course, we've had to gone through 29 CFR 1910.178, one of those courses with a trainer where we should have learned exactly how to operate the unit and all of its unique safety concerns. I had asked him, hadn't the manufacturer or salesman supplied him with that type of instruction? He shared that they had said something about it and maybe it had been scheduled for, next week sometime. I told him that I would get on the phone and find out and make sure everyone that I planned to have operating that piece of equipment probably should attend that type of training. Now, of course, I'm more than confident that I could have climbed up on the platform and had no problem performing the task with it, but as we all know, I'd need to be trained and observed on it before I would even touch it, right? I went and looked up a little more information on scissor lifts and learned they are not compared to aerial lifts and are actually more closely associated with scaffolding. I ran across a really informative hazard alert at OSHA.gov Publications, OSHA 3842. It was titled, Working Safely with Scissor Lifts. Now, as with any publication, I'd strongly suggest you seek guidance from your employer or a local OSHA outreach trainer, with specific questions about any piece of equipment. But I thought this 2016 article mentioned some really good points. Scissor lifts provide a safe and reliable platform for workers to perform job tasks when used according to the manufacturer's instructions. When not properly used, of course, scissor lifts can present a serious hazard to workers. It states how employers are responsible for keeping workers safe. This hazard alert highlights specific hazards present in workplaces where scissor lifts are used and controls employers must implement to prevent, injuries and fatalities. The alert starts out with an introduction. Scissor lifts are work platforms used to safely move workers vertically and to different locations in a variety of industries, including construction, retail, entertainment, and manufacturing. It states how scissor lifts are different from aerial lifts because the lifting mechanism moves the work platform straight up and down using cross beams functioning in a scissor-like fashion. Although scissor lifts present hazards similar to scaffolding when extended and stationary, using scissor lifts safely depends on considering the equipment's capabilities, its limitations, and safe practices. And I found this really interesting. Over a 1-year period, OSHA investigated 10 preventable fatalities and more than 20 preventable injuries resulting from a variety of incidents involving scissor lifts. OSHA's investigations found that most injuries and fatalities involving scissor lifts were the result of employers not addressing 3 main things: fall protection, stabilization, and positioning. The next section explains how to safely use scissor lifts and covers fall protection, or 29 CFR 1926.451, and 29 CFR 1910.29, Stabilization and Positioning. It mentions how dangerous high winds can be if we're outside using a lift, too. I once had an employee using a scissor lift out in the truck yard, changing the light bulbs up on the, what would you call them? I guess the parking lot light poles. Anyway, I thought it was too windy to be out there. From the ground, it really looked like the entire unit was swaying back and forth. I went ahead and had him come on in. I figured we could change the lights anytime. Now, he didn't agree with me and felt that he'd have been fine to go ahead and finish. I don't know what really could have happened, but I know we both went home safely that night. And it goes on to speak to maintaining the lift, following the manufacturer's instructions. The next section addresses training workers. Employers must provide workers training on hazards, including how to work safely with or near scissor lifts. And it states 29 CFR 1926.454. Training must, at a minimum, include manufacturer's instructions for operating the scissor lift vertically and while in transit, how to handle materials on the scissor lift, including weight limits, other worksite hazards workers may encounter when working on a scissor lift, maybe contact with electrical wires, and reporting any equipment defects or maintenance needs. Some of the OSHA standards employers must comply with are the following OSHA standards, and all these fall underneath 29 CFR to protect workers from hazards associated with scissor lifts. The general industry is 1910.23, guarding floor and wall openings and holes, 1910.28, safety requirements for scaffolding, 1910.29, manually propelled mobile ladder stands and scaffolds, and I think they're talking about the towers, 1910.333, selection and use of work practices in shipyards, 1915.71, scaffolds or staging construction, 1926.21, safety training and education. Then you have 1926.451, general requirements. And it goes on and it lists several more, and I think they're all really important. For any type of technical assistance, you can refer to OSHA's e-tool, and there's a lot of other resources on scaffolding also. The American National Standards Institute, or ANSI, has standards for manufacturing, actually owning, and operating scissor lifts. And where could they be found? I had it here a second ago. The ANSI A92.3-206. And that's actually a pretty interesting read. And also A92.6-2006. Really just like all of our warehouse or light industrial equipment, if we know how it works, what safety concerns it may present, and have been trained on that safe operation, it's another great tool to achieve our task with. And I'll go ahead and share just a quick follow-up on that facility's new unit. Everyone attended that training, and although it'll only be used occasionally, I feel really good that the manager had parked it and didn't even consider anyone operating it until the trainer came out and conducted the course for him. I only wish I could have attended that course and been allowed to operate it. Those controls looked awesome. Another piece of equipment that can be taken for granted and not much thought given to them are our balers. Where we bale up our cardboard or shrink wrap? OSHA has some great information on balers. I'll include that link in today's show notes as well. These units can really be dangerous if we use them improperly. Remember, they are machines, and we've learned that we are never to operate any machine or equipment that we have not been properly trained on and certified or authorized to operate. Is that statement true or false? I hope we all said true or shook our heads up and down just then. Seriously, these machines work under high pressure, crushing pressure if you will. One of my concerns are those door locks. They look super heavy duty, don't they? Ever considered how they'd swing open if a weld or a latch failed during the compacting cycle? I myself never stood anywhere near those doors after pushing the compact button. I'd make everyone step away. I got laughed at quite a bit, but we all would go home every night. Even carrying the baled product across the docks can be dangerous. Ever think of the weight of those things? I used to stack them. We have to stack them securely. They could easily crush us if they fell back on us. And those units can be considered a confined space, depending on what type that we're working with. All the safety guards have to be in place before operation. I myself always did a walk around them before I would even use them. The page I mentioned listed the OSHA standard requirements for us too. Specific OSHA standards that apply to baling and compacting include 29 CFR Part 1910.146, permitting required confined spaces, 29 CFR Part 1910.14, lockout, tagout, or energy sources, and 29 CFR Part 1910.212, machine guarding. Again, all the equipment we'll experience throughout our operations careers can, be operated safely. It is our responsibility to know the equipment, know its safety concerns, and how to operate it properly and safely. It's our duty, our job to follow those rules, standards, and laws. If we never operate or even touch a machine or piece of equipment that we have not been trained on and authorized or certified to operate, we stand a much greater chance of not ever having an accident. If you operate a scissor lift during the course of your duties or have to work with a cardboard or shrink wrap baler, share your thoughts with us. Send me an email to host@warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com, or maybe start a conversation on our Twitter or Facebook feeds using that little @ WHSEANDOPS. Well, we've wrapped up another week. Until then, be safe. Learn something new about your equipment or machines. Maybe check them out at OSHA.gov. I bet you'll learn something new about their safe operation.